When bad things happen to us, is it God's fault? Did God make this happen? Is God to blame? So often the accusing finger is pointing at God, but it's really pointing in the wrong direction. Let me read a section of scripture to you from the book of Genesis. It says this: "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." Here's my question. What would you expect to find in a society where wickedness and evil abound? There would be widespread corruption. There would be dishonesty in business. There would be cheating, violence, injustice. No longer would you find trustworthy people. And where such wickedness exists, there will be casualties, there will be victims. Is God to blame for this? Certainly not. God never created man to behave in such a manner. But when man chooses to live his life outside the boundaries of God's will, when God no longer features in the decisions that he has to make day by day, then you can expect evil behavior to be forthcoming and people suffer. Is this God's fault? Certainly not. For example, God has created a world that's capable of feeding every human being on the planet. Yet millions are in starvation every day. Why is this? Who's to blame for all of this? Drought is destroying the lives of so many rural farmers in developing nations. They can no longer sow their crops, they can no longer look after their livestock, and so they suffer. These people are the victims. But who's to blame for all of this? Certainly not these people. The blame must be laid at the rich, powerful nations whose whole industry is wrecking the environment in which we have to live. As a result, we're seeing huge changes in our climate that's having a profound effect upon our world. And it seems to be that irrespective of the consequences, the wealthy nations just carry on with their industries and their very high standards of living. Is God to blame for all the suffering that results from this? Certainly not. Bad things will continue as long as man is not walking with God. We have to live in a fallen world with the consequences that brings. But for those of us who are the people of God, we have the promises of God to cling on to. God has promised us that he'll never leave us, he'll never forsake us. God will always be with us. He'll always be watching over us. Now, God has never promised us an easy life, but he has promised to always be with us no matter what happens to us in life. And these are the promises that really will sustain us in a fallen world. These are the promises that we can cling to in a world where bad things happen to good people.